A quiet town near the beach. Its surroundings are beautiful. The fishes, the trees, the sea looks brilliant. Students in the streets, some are heading home, others are going to have fun with their friends or partner. In a school, several of his students are about to leave, but Naoto Hakioji is on his way to the library. A quiet and shy boy tells him to interact with people. He is not looking to be the center of attention in anything, just to be quiet in his school year. He enters but finds a lot of noise when he turns to see where the sound is coming from. A group of 4 girls are laughing, talking and eating fried food. He decides nervously to ignore them, finish his homework as fast as possible and go home. When he passes by the girls, they look at him for a second and then ignore him to continue talking. After a while, some of them get up to look for a book that another one recommended it. In that moment, Naoto breaks the tip of his pencil because of nerves. He looks for an eraser, but because of his clumsiness, he makes his bag fall down, showing several of his sketches of a comic book that he worked on. The girl notices it and takes some sheets and makes fun a little, calling the others. The last of the 3 girls observes more the drawing. One of the girls decides to leave because her boyfriend is waiting for her. The others leave, but Nagatoro tells them that he stays a little bit longer. She sits in front of Naoto and smiles at him. The shy one looks away. In the distance, they see that both are completely opposite. Asks him if the main character of her story was based on him, since she finds many similarities. He denies, but she believes it is so. After that, she tells him that if he is a sophomore. He nods and she tells him that he is a freshman, so Naoto is her senpai. She signs that the character in his comic and him are the same because they are both very pathetic with the girl. For example, in the comic, his swordsman is in love with the warrior, but his love can't be reciprocated because she is half demon and she rejects her. Tells her that it looks very sad, that part, because for sure he is going to continue with the story. Pachai will fight for the love of his beloved and they will live happily ever after. Naoto asks her why the comic looks pathetic. Gets up from her post and tells her that they are going to recreate the scene. They move the tables and she gets ready. She had never used a sword before, so she uses martial arts. Naoto doesn't know what to do or what she is really planning. After performing her act and saying the same lines, expects Naoto to follow her, but he refuses. She turns around and tells him that how is it possible that her swordsman can make it and he can't, since they are the same reflection. Then she corners him in a corner and teases him several times, and he starts to cry. She hands him a handkerchief and gives it to him. She leaves. The next day, Naoto goes to the art club. When she is opening the door, appears. He ignores her, but she doesn't give up. Naoto enters the club and closes the door. Her tranquility doesn't last long. Enters and starts to inspect the whole place. Naoto is nervous and anxious about his presence. She realizes that he is drawing, then she has an idea. She sits in front of him and tells him to draw her. She hears that coming out of his mouth and he quickly refuses. Then thinks to tell him that she likes it. Then the Erotic unbuttons the first boot and Naoto is red as a tomato, completely refuses again and falls off the chair until he agrees to draw her. She laughs at his reaction. After a while, the alarm sounds for both of them to take a break. Naoto is restless. Notices and tells him that if the drawing is well done, she will give him a prize. Confused, he asks her what it would be and she answers that it is a secret. It is late and the students are already going home. They are in the art room. Naoto finished the drawing he made. Is observing each stroke with attention and seriousness. After several minutes of nervousness, she turns to Naoto and smiles, telling him that it has been great, and now she will give him his prize as a reward. She asks him to close his eyes. He obeys. She approaches and takes him by the chin. Naoto thinks she is going to kiss him. When she is close to him, she taps him on the head. She makes fun of his reaction. She tells him that he doesn't deserve that prize because in the drawing you can see that he hasn't finished the legs. She asks him if he is ashamed to draw the legs of the girl. Naoto is red as a tomato and turns to hide his face. He tells that if he has finished he should leave the room, but she doesn't want to go. Naoto is about to cry from the embarrassment he is going through. She tells him that if he lends her the handkerchief from the other time. They both leave the art room and she says goodbye, but they realize that she lives in the same direction. In an awkward silence for Naoto but funny for she stops and tells him that she needs a favor from him. He listens to her attentively and is stunned by her confession. She asks him to go out together, but he doesn't know what to say, but after a few minutes in silence she comes up to him and hits him on the head, mocking him, saying it was a lie. And then saying how could a girl confess to him. He keeps walking and ignores her all the way, and she thinks he was joking too much. The next day Naoto is in the art room and is finishing a drawing of a vase. When he is about to take a break, Hayes enters like a whirlwind with a hula hoop. She tells him to enter the room so that both move their hips. When Naoto is going to try, he sees her underwear and falls back. Hayes realizes and tells him pervert. Several hours past, it is time for lunch. Naoto is in a room alone eating and reading a comic book of a girls who are vampires is in an erotic part. He is red as a tomato when he decides to stop reading. Hayes is watching him from afar, enters the living room and tells him that he is eating alone. Then he remembers that the magazine and had a lewd look according to her. She asks him what was that he was reading. He tries to deny it and hide the magazine, but she faster and takes it. Open the magazine, the first image that shows is erotic and she makes fun of him for his pervert. He tries to explain to her that he reads that content is because of the story. She doesn't believe him but decides to read it. After a while she likes what the story is about. Both have a debate about it, but she ends up telling him that if in real life a vampire is looking for someone, he would be the last one they would eat, because his blood would be a virgin and if he sucks him dry. Hayes tells him to test his neck. He has a sharp fang that he wants to try. Naoto is clear in refusing, but she insists. In that moment the light of the room goes out and it starts to rain. The scenery where he is makes him look gloomy and Naoto is scared. He takes steps backwards but falls when he collides with a chair. She takes that opportunity that he falls and goes over him. She starts to undo the buttons of his shirt and caresses his neck. The other is nervous because in the position in which he is, if someone enters the room, could misunderstand him. Hayes is close to bite his neck, but the light returns and moves away when he sees Naoto's expression. It is late and they both decide to go home. On the way, Hayes teases him about what had happened in the living room. She tells him to repeat it again and he denies completely, but she catches him off guard and grabs him by the waist. He becomes like a tomato. She pulls away and runs off, saying goodbye to him. In the morning at high school, Naoto is in the art room about to start drawing, but his piece is interrupted by Hayes. She comes in telling him to play at finding his nipples under his clothes, but he refuses because he doesn't trust her and wouldn't do that. But she insists there is a prize. But when he thinks about it, he still refuses. She shows him a coupon valid to do whatever the other says without limit. She tells him he could use it for when he is teasing him and stops, or for something more kinky. He thinks about it and accepts, but not the latter but the former. Both are one in front of the other. They only have one chance to guess. She prepares to touch him and hits the target and starts to move her fingers, and he launches a feminine moan. Hayes, hearing that, laughs at him. She tells him that she is not able to perform the game, but he gets up and approaches her to touch her. A phone alarm sounds telling her it's time to go to class. She nervously runs away and leaves him in the classroom. After classes, Naoto goes to a restaurant to finish his comic book. This is very far from the institute, so he thinks that no one will see him and bother him, but apparently his luck is very bad. A group of 4 people enters and one of them is Hayes. They sit a little close to him, but they have not realized that he is there because a wall that divides them. The boy of the group started, the one that is in a band with his friend. He is a composer and is dedicated to sing. Hayes from her seat observes everything and sees that Hayes is irritated with the guys in the band. Her friend decides to go to the bathroom, leaving her alone with one of the guys. He keeps talking about his music, but Hayes interrupts him, telling him that he is not expressing anything and he is probably just doing it for the sake of doing it. Naoto expected another teasing reaction from Hayes like him. The boy goes to the bathroom sadly. The other friend arrives and starts looking for Hayes' talk. The boy confesses that he had never touched a girl's breast. Naoto waits for Hayes' teasing, but it never comes. She observes the boy in a cold way and tells him that this is not a topic of conversation when he is meeting a girl. The boy decides to leave sad. Her friend arrives and asks her what happened. She explains that they were both stupid. The friend tells her that she had made that date for her because they were both interested in her. Hayes yells at her friend not to do it again because she is not interested. Naoto is on his way home and meets Hayes. She annoys him, but this time he is not intimidated by her. In the art room, Naoto is doing a drawing. When he turns to see another detail, there is Hayes near his face. She tells him to be her model again, but he denies, so he tells her it is better to be a nude model. She takes off her skirt and shirt. Naoto turns to another side. Hayes stands in front of him and has the swimsuit. Time of departure, both are on their way home. It starts to rain and both take shelter at a bus stop. They realize that it is not a passing cloud. Hayes asks Naoto if his house is nearby, but it is close. He denies it is 2 stations away. She tells him that his house is a block away and that it is better that they go there to take shelter from the rain. He does not trust much for his previous teasing, but ends up accepting since he has no other choice but to wait. At Hayase's house, Naoto is nervous because he thinks they are going to be alone, but in the entrance there are shoes indicating that there are more people at home. She tells him where the bathroom is and gives him a towel and his older brother's clothes so that he can change and then put his uniform in the dryer. He is nervous because she has not teased him and thinks his relatives are going to do the same. Both in Hayase's room, they are drinking hot chocolate. She notices he is more nervous than usual and approaches him seductively. She pretends to be on top of him but takes a game that is behind him to entertain herself while they are both waiting. They are both playing and Hayase wins several games. Naoto is annoyed. In several games Hayase wants to finish with Naoto but she catches him off guard and beats him. He tells her it was cheating but she strategizes. They continue playing and on several occasions she distracts him to beat him. Tickling, teasing and embarrassment. Several hours passed and the rain stopped. Hayase changes and Hayase accompanies him to the door. He thanks her and tells her that it was fun to spend the afternoon. She too because it was fun and they promise to play again with Hayase's cheating. In the dining room of the institute, Naoto is looking for a place to eat alone, but everything is busy. Naoto observes him in the distance and calls him, taking his attention. He goes to the table where she is, but he realizes that there are two of her friends. Naoto has saved a seat for him and takes it. He apologizes for interrupting. The two friends watch him until he asks if they are boyfriend and girlfriend. Naoto denies, but Hayase affirms. Naoto is nervous and red as a tomato. Hayase's friend takes him by the hand and she looks at her in a jealous way. The other friend notices. They continue to tease Naoto but Hayase touches his hair and her friend tries to do the same but she takes her hand away. Then she tries to touch his arm and the same thing happens. Naoto looks at her seriously. The other friend tells Hayase that he is not a real man because if he was he would not tolerate being teased and treated that way, so he is an insect. Naoto gets upset and tells him that he shouldn't say those things and that he has gone too far with what he said. Hayase gets up from his seat, calling the attention of everyone in the dining room, and tells them that he is not Naoto's boyfriend. The friends laugh because they thought he was going to say something more interesting. Lunchtime is over. In the art room is Hayase drawing in the company of Naoto. She tells him that it is not possible for him not to defend himself from when other people insult him, and for that he has to turn the insults into mockery. She will be his teacher and how to perform it. She mocks in several events and explains to him and how he has to carry the insults in comedy. He is imagining the situations and thinks that with that he can have her. She waits for him to defend himself, and when she approaches him she yells at him that they don't have to go to such extremes. Naoto is surprised but then smiles. She follows him to his teasing and he tries to push her away. But when he goes to stop her he hits her breasts. Unintentionally he apologizes. She blushes but recovers quickly, annoying him about pervert. Hayase is eating in the art room. He thinks that being there is more peaceful but it does not last long. They open the door and he thinks it is Naoto, but he is taken by surprise by the two friends of the girls. Both sit in front of him watching him eat until Gamo brings up a conversation asking if he has ever touched the breast of a girl. Naoto spits the drink to hear the question. He turns red as a tomato and begins to stutter. The girls make fun of him for not touching another girl's breast and for being a virgin. They take him by the arms and one of them approaches him to touch his breast. He refuses completely but he has no strength, and when he is close he puts his hand on Gamo's breast. When both girls make fun of him, Hayase arrives. She is at the door observing everything with eyes full of sparks of the fury she has. The friends turn to see her and run out of the room. Already alone Hayase and Naoto, she is angry and asks him if he really touched her friend's breasts. He denies that it was in fact 2 buns that he had put on her. She is relieved to hear that. She makes fun of him for having deceived him. She proposes to touch his breasts, but he refuses. She takes a bun that is a golden prize, but to give it to him she has to touch his chest. She puts both buns on her breasts, and when she turns around she shows Naoto. He refuses, but after insisting so much she accepts it. Hayase is nervous and stoned because she didn't expect that, and Naoto hasn't realized it, so he keeps touching them thinking that they are the buns. When he decides which bun is the prize he realizes that he is touching Hayase's breasts. She observes him and grabs a ruler that was on the table and starts hitting him. He asks her forgiveness and after a while she confirms that this bun is the softest one. Another afternoon in the art room, he is in the car waiting for Hayase because days before she had told him to do her modeling. Obviously he had refused, but knowing her he had insisted so much that he agreed. After a while he shows up with pushing a giant piece of furniture. He is confused why she tells him it is to be more comfortable. She observes that the other is looking out the window at the soccer teams. She hears the girls are giving compliments to the guys, and she tells him that to earn that he has to tell the others. He thinks it doesn't work that way, but he listens to her. She teaches him that if he wants to do that, he starts complimenting her first so he earns more compliments. Embarrassed, he doesn't know where to start. He thinks about telling her that her face is pretty, but he doesn't think it's the right one. Then her legs, but sounds perverted. Then her body, but that he thinks he is a stalker, so he decides to tell her her hair is silky. She laughs and tells him it goes well after that. He tries to continue with the compliments, but Hayes' mocking face doesn't help him much, so he desists to continue. He tells her to place herself on the sofa to draw her, since being a model was his idea. She sits in an erotic way that Naoto, seeing her, is embarrassed and redder than a tomato. He asks her, stammering, to be in a normal way, but Hayes, to annoy him a little more, she pulls up her skirt a little. Embarrassed, he turns around and waits for her to fix herself. When he finds a pose, she is lying on the furniture with the tranquility of the living room. She falls asleep. Naoto takes advantage and draws her. In that time, after finishing, Hayes wakes up and observes the drawing. He liked it, so he is going to give the prize to Naoto. The same tactic. He closes his eyes and I hope she approaches him and pretends to kiss him with a toy octopus. He opens his eyes and is embarrassed. She makes fun of him. Both decide that it is too late and go to their homes. Naoto is drawing and Hayes comes in to bother him, but something is different about him. He doesn't respond to any teasing she tells him. He just continues. Hayes' two friends come in asking Naoto if he wants to go out and have fun with her instead of staying to receive Hayes' teasing. Surprisingly, he accepts the invitation. They leave ignoring her. Hayes feels bad about it. It turns out to be a dream of the girl. In reality, they are both in the art room and she has fallen asleep and only Naoto was ignoring her. When she wakes up, she screams, scaring the boy. That same afternoon, they are both in the salon. Hayes shows him a video of a sheep having its hair cut. She compares him to her because he has very long and fluffy hair. She tells him that tomorrow she will go to the hairdresser. She has an idea, or rather a plan already prepared, and she takes a razor and scissors to cut his hair. But he refuses completely because he does not trust her. When she is about to use the machine, her phone rings from a call. The two friends tell her that they need her for a big favor. She leaves, promising that she will come back later. The two friends enter the room, surprising Naoto. He tells her that Hayes is not there, but they already knew. They both find the razor. He explains to her what happened and both girls turn to see him. They both have the same idea, to shave him themselves. He refuses completely, but the girls take him and sit him on a chair. He starts to move his head so that they don't come closer. Hayes finds himself in the living room, but to his surprise it is empty. He decides to go back. When he is close, he hears all the commotion and goes running, discovering his friends trying to shave him. Naoto shouts that he promised Hayes to cut his hair. She appears and both friends feel a chill. When they turn around, Hayes' murderous look is on both of them. The girls throw the scissors and Hayes' razor catches them. They take the opportunity to run away. After that commotion, they end up doing what they did in the beginning. Hayes cuts Naoto's hair, leaving it a little bit shorter and nicer. That same afternoon, after finishing, both decide to go home. Summer has arrived and Hayes proposes to go to eat a shave. Naoto accepts. When they arrive at the place, there is a long line to buy. Hayes says to wait in line, but Naoto proposes to go to the supermarket to buy ice cream. He gives him a murderous look and ends up agreeing to stand in line. Hayes begins to heat up. Naoto takes a key in the shade and buys 2 soft drinks. Hayes feels better, is sad because he wanted a shave, but decides to go buy ice cream and eat it under the shade where they are. It is already late and both of them decide to go. They both talk about the summer vacations that are approaching. Hayes has to go to classes at the swimming club. Naoto thinks about finishing a game and several paintings that he had been waiting for. Hayes asks for his phone number to be able to talk to him. They both arrive at the crossroads where they say goodbye. Naoto continues his way and takes the drink that Naoto had, but he thinks that she tried it. And when he is about to take it, a sticker arrives on his phone with a message from her telling him that he is a pervert. On vacation, Naoto is playing in his room quietly. He is leveling up when he is in a very difficult part of the game is stuck. He gets frustrated and decides to go to a cafe to finish his comic. In the tranquility of the place, falls asleep dreaming that he is the knight of the game and Hayes is his companion. Both fight to defeat the dark magician. When they attack several bosses and creatures, they arrive to a dungeon. They both get ready to attack what is approaching, but they are awakened by the noise of the door of the cafeteria. Hayes and her friends enter the place. She realizes that Naoto is in the place. Hayes takes it and sees that there are several sketches of her on a cat. She decides to bother Naoto. She chases him on the way and he denies that it is her sketchbook, so she decides to keep it and says goodbye. Naoto is in his room watching TV, interviewing people on the beach, enjoying his summer. He receives a call from Hayes inviting him to go, but he refuses. He ends up accepting because he is Hayes and he is someone who will not stop. The next day he goes to the meeting point indicated by Hayes. There he meets her and two friends. The three of them are surprised that he arrived. The four of them go to the beach while they make fun of Nagatoro because he is not a person who looks like that, and the truth is that he is not someone who likes the beach. They arrive at the destination and arrange the towels and the umbrella. The girls take off their clothes. The two friends make fun of Nagatoro because he turned red as a tomato. Hayes doesn't like that and decides to take off his shirt too. Nagatoro sneaks to buy drinks and Hayes looks at him in a cold way, so he also buys something. When they come back, the girls take their drinks and decide to go swimming. Nagatoro takes out his drawing pad and the girls think he is really a lonely marine cockroach. In the water, Hayes and one decide to make a swimming contest. The referee will be Sakura. The girls prepare themselves and the first place is taken by Hayes. She goes to Nagatoro and sits down next to him. She asks him if he does not know anything or it is that in truth he does not like it. He tells her that if he knows how to swim, but he does not like to get burned. She calmly takes out a sunscreen from her bag, takes off his clothes leaving him as a bathing suit. She smears some sunscreen on her hands and puts it on. They are both blushing. Nagatoro tells her that if someone from the school sees them it can be misunderstood. Then she gets a little upset but doesn't show it. She smears the sunscreen on him a bit roughly so people won't misunderstand. Hayes' friends arrive and do the same. She tries to stop her but they don't listen. They finish the sunscreen and Nagatoro is white. The four of them have fun in their own way. They eat, play beach volleyball, find starfish. It's getting late and they decide it's time to go back. At home, Nagatoro talks to Hayes on the phone. She tells him that she hasn't been burned and that her opinion about the beach has changed. He replies that because of the amount of sunscreen it wasn't like that and that going in the summer was fun. He says all this while looking at the drawing he made that day. It's of Hayes laughing without her noticing. Summer festival. Nagatoro thinks of inviting Hayes, but he discards the idea thinking that she will reject him and she will make fun. He continues playing in his game, but after a while he ends up going to the place. Without having much hope to find her, he decides to go to buy food in stalls, but for his bad luck he finds his two friends Sakura and Goma. He tries to run away from them, but it is impossible for him. Both inform her that her dear friend Hayes is not in the festival because she stayed training until late with the swimming club. In the institute, Hayes has finished with training. One of the girls asks her if she will go to the festival, but when she is going to deny, she gets an image of Nagatoro with her two friends, this with collar of dog. For what, Hayes is annoyed and goes in all haste to the place. When they turn around, they find Hayes running at full speed to where they are. When they see her two friends with the leash, she tries to take it off, but they both refuse because she will have to compete to get Nagatoro again. They are at a stand where they shoot at rubber dolls. She shoots but does not manage to knock down the doll. Nagatoro tries but closes his eyes and misses the shot. Hayes follows him, knocking down a rabbit. Thus they continue in all the festival, playing in each position and winning each prize. When it is the hour to see who stays Nagatoro, they realize that Hayes wins for having a giant octopus that is worth more than what he has, rubber and secure. They remove him the dog collar that they have Otto, and both girls go away, leaving the two boys alone. They go to eat and Nagatoro thinks that it is a date. Apparently Hayes reads his mind because when he mentions it to him, this one blushes. They announce that they are about to launch the fireworks. For what it takes it to make the line is very long, and they do not believe to arrive to see them very well. Nagatoro remembers a place when he was a child he saw with his family and takes her there. When they are in that place, she makes fun of him because it would not look good for them to be alone in the dark because they can have lustful moments, but he does not think so, and when he asks her to specify the fireworks start, both are fascinated by the lights. When they turn to see each other, they realize that they have several couples around kissing and decide to flee the sight. On the way home, they talk about how much fun they had today. Nagatoro takes the initiative to invite her to next year's festival. Back to school, Nagatoro is on his way home and hears a group of girls nearby. When he is passing by the park, he sees Hayes and her friends with another new girl in their group. He tries to go unnoticed so she does not see him. Two more boys arrive at the table of the girls and one of them invites Hayes on a date, but she refuses, but apparently the boy does not pay attention. He puts his arm around her shoulder and she automatically removes it and refuses again on the date. Nagatoro observes everything from afar and decides to approach them, but when he is close he steps on a branch, making noise. On his arrival, the group turns to see him and Nagatoro panics, but he comes out of his hiding place and talks to Hayes, asking him to go home together. The boys make fun of him, but she accepts. She gets up and leaves with Nagatoro. The other girls also decide to leave. The other girl, Yoshi, remembers Nagatoro as the boy from the library who draws the comic. The four girls make fun of him on the way, but he is used to it. In the art room, Naoto is drawing and Hayes enters making a commotion as usual. She realizes that the senpai with giant circles under his eyes asks her what has happened to him, and he tells her that he has been hooked on a new game he has bought and he spent all night playing and passing levels. After that brief explanation, she checks her phone and realizes that the midterm exams are near. Naoto realizes that he hasn't studied at all for any exams and may possibly repeat the year if he doesn't pass them. Hayes tells him that if that happens they would both be seatmates and it would bother him more in the classroom. Naoto, imagining that, decides to go study at the library urgently. The girls tease and what him repeating for the second time, but this one tells him that it is not going to be possible, then thinks that repeating for the second time they are going to be in a more superior level and they now would be their senpai. Those that are excited by that. Yoshi Hidden reassures Naoto, showing him the exams of Sakura, and Rubber also hers, warning him that the most probable thing that they repeat years are them because Hayes, if he has good grades, and he probably will go to him better. The two friends which failed ask for help to Naoto to be able to pass the exams. Sakura touches her cheek and Hayes throws her the pencil case so that she moves away her hand, giving it in the target. The week of exams is finished, and as it was to be expected, Naoto took excellent grades. Hayes asks her if she hated very much the idea in being classmates. A new day, and Hayes is on her way to the arts room. When she is near the door, she hears some commotion. Her friends are inside. She understands in a conversation that could be misunderstood. When she enters, she observes that they are trying to remove a splinter in Naoto's finger. She removes the clamp from Sakura and removes the splinter from Naoto. On the way back home, Hayes complains to Naoto for being very gentlemanly with a pretty girl. He tells her that it was logical to help her move some chairs that were heavy. Then she tells him that he would have to carry her bag at least to the crossroads, and he asks her why she would do that. Hayes decides to play rock, paper, scissors, and the winner takes the other's backpack. Hayes ends up losing. At the next crossroads they play again and Hayes ends up winning, but her move was predictable, so I let her win. At the last block near Hayes' house they play again and she ends up winning. But instead of carrying the backpack, he will piggyback her. Naoto is embarrassed and red as a tomato. Hayes was about to fall and Naoto settles down to take her, but he grabs her thighs. She is embarrassed and without showing her face decides to run away. In the evening, Naoto is doing homework. I got a message from Hayes. She asks him what he is doing. He answers her and then asks her if she guesses what he is doing. He tells her if he is watching TV, but he misses that he got a call. And when he answers, she informed him that he is taking a nervous bath. He falls off the chair, knocking over his notebooks. She laughs because she thinks his reaction is funny. She is laughing. She doesn't realize she has activated the video call. When he sees her, he turns red as a tomato and tries to warn her, but she is still teasing him. When he calms down, he warns her, and when he realizes she also turns red as a tomato and screams. They are both embarrassed by the accident. In the art room they are Yoshi, Sakura, Goma and Hayes. While Naoto is drawing, he asks him what they do there. They answer him that a group of boys arrived at the cafeteria to play and it did not stop with the noise even if it asked him for what they decided in going to the room. Naoto neither believes that they have surrendered so easy, and it is in the correct ones. The girls have elaborated a plan in one of them to make them fall in love at home, so they are going to be interested in her and they are not going to want to play. Naoto, when hearing that, is frightened because he does not want to mess with the girls. The friends Goma and Sakura make fun of him for not having sexual appetite because he gets nervous or embarrassed to anything that he has referring to sex. Hayes defends him that it is not like that. Then the girls, to finish the discussion, make the deal to demonstrate that Naoto, if he has sexual desires. Hayes begins to look for among the things of art some magazine or erotic comic of the other times. Naoto is seated because he knows that nothing will enter, or so he thinks. Actually, he has a comic book that literally most people can misinterpret as erotic because of the drawing. But if the story is super good, but that book is hidden in another shelf and he doubts that she will get it. Ready of 15 minutes looking for Goma and Sakura Alendis that she will not win, but Hayes does not stop. When she turns, she sees that Naoto is nervous. Then she looks at the shelf and at him 3 times. There she realizes that he is hiding something and she goes there to look for. When she finds the comic book that she had hidden, she checks it and that it is about something erotic. She begins to mock for pervert. The friends decide to leave it alone. New day and Naoto is in the art room. Same routine as always. Hayes arrives with a piercing. Naoto observes her and she tells him that it was about to close, so she opened them again with a piercing machine. There she has an idea to do it to Naoto when she approaches him and is about to do it. The only thing she does is to pinch his ear with the machine. When Hayes sees Naoto's face waiting for the puncture, she laughs at him. She is going to make a mockery but is interrupted by Yoshi, who comes crying and approaches Naoto, hugging him asking for help. That action leaves Naoto confused and bothers Hayes. In a cafeteria, the girls and Naoto meet and talk about Yoshi's situation. She tells them that by performing revenge with the boys, one of them became her stalker, and when she points outside, indeed a chubby guy with glasses is outside hiding among the trees. Goma asks Naoto what is his opinion about it. He replies that it is partly their fault for playing with others' feelings. Yoshi hears that, starts to cry but stops to ask her for the favor. She tells him that if she can let herself go by her partner for a while, so the stalker sees them happy and in love and leaves her alone. Naoto gives Hayes the jitters. He doesn't like the idea. Hayes asks him why it has to be him, and Yoshi replies that he has no partner at the moment and he the only closest guy. She has to ask her for that. He ends up agreeing and Hayes is giving him something. On a date is Yoshi and Naoto. The girls do not miss the opportunity to follow them, and Hayes, in observing it, bothers. Goma realizes it and begins to bother her in that possibly it can become reality. But Hayes refuses in that. In a viewpoint all the girls are a little far away, and Naoto along with Yoshi admire the view. At that, Hayes appears with the stalker and kneels him in front of the fake couple. The stalker asks for forgiveness and runs away. Hayes tells them all that it is better to nip those situations in the bud. When everything is over, Hayes tells him to leave together and he accepts. Walking home, she teases him, but deep down she is relieved that he doesn't like Yoshi. At school, the girls watch Naoto in a marathon run, but his way of running is very strange because it makes them a little embarrassed. At the end of the class, the day is over and everyone goes home. Hayes will wait for him at the door to leave together. On the way, she asks him why his strange way of running, and he tells her that everyone has their weak points in something and he is in sports. She denies that he is a bad competitor and threatens him that they will start training the next day without fail. Obviously, Naoto tries to deny, but he is a hopeless case. The next day is promised. They meet in the park. The senpai is dressed in his sports clothes and Hayes in a top and shorts. The senpai, to see her like that, blushes and turns away. Hayes doesn't hesitate to make fun of him. The marathon begins and they try to run all over the park, but the senpai is fainting. She proposes that if he wins she will stop calling him pervert, but she can't run anymore. She insists and ends up agreeing, and when the marathon ends the senpai cannot move. She tells him that there is stretching in order to be able to relax all the muscles that I have used. The stretching Hayes can help him, but if they see them it can be misinterpreted. It turns out that Sakura is walking to her dog and sees them. They end up joining in the training. At school, Naoto is thinking of looking for a model for the school festival, and in that comes the whirlwind. Hayes bothers him, asking him why he is so serious. He explains the situation. She mocks because she has no friends but ends up offering to be the model, but he arrives because he does not want her to be. At the end of the discussion, she ended up doing her modeling and he tells her to wear clothes. The girl, because he doesn't have any, she asks him what kind of clothes he wants her to model, whether swimsuit or sexy. He gives her a list and doesn't think she has that kind of clothes, but she surprises him the next day with the video game kitty suit. She ordered it from the sewing club and they made a magic. Naoto is left speechless because he thought that she would win this time, but it was not like that. She bothers him because he is surely imagining her with that suit in his lustful thoughts. Hayes informs him that in his swimming club they will make a yakisoba stand. In rubber club and Sakura will open a house of terror. Yoshi will help the video game club. Hayes asks him if they are the boys of the dining room of the other time. She tells him yes. All the boys reconciled and they get along well again. The girls ask him that the art club will make for the festival. In that he remembers the past festival that those of third that were members made an exhibition and it was everything in success. Naoto tells them that he will do the same, but the girls make fun because they think that no one will come to that exhibition. Everyone is eating and Naoto feels the footsteps of someone approaching and quickly tells the girls to hide in the closet. A little fight, but they obey. As soon as they close the door, the president makes her presents. She asks what they are going to do for the festival. He answers in making an art exhibition, but she denies. She also reprimands him because she already heard rumors that the club has become a meeting place for first-year delinquents. The student council reprimanded her and she is upset because she doesn't believe that those rumors are true, but noticing several things out of place now she believes that they are. The girls are listening carefully to everything they say to Naoto and they feel bad for being scolded. The president tells him that if he doesn't want to continue with the club it is better that he is expelled and goes to another place to draw whatever he wants. Hayes can't stand it anymore and comes out of hiding to defend him. She tells the president that it is very selfish of her to expel him like that. He has kept the art club alone. He always comes to draw, even so he must have friends. The president gets upset and tells Hayes that if those are the things he should prove it to her by making an exhibition different from the art club. Every year the stands have a vote by the students. If he receives more than his exhibit he has clearly won, and only then will he remove the expulsion. Naoto is nervous, but Hayes speaks for him, accepting the challenge. A few days before the festival, Hayes and the girls make fun of the president. Naoto tells her that they do not speak ill of her. Hayes tells her that it will be a lot of fun and asks her what is the possibility of beating the president. Being honest, zero. She has competed in several contests, even with university students, and has won in the previous festival. The art club was 6th place in the whole school. That day there were more than 50 stands. The girls are amazed because they don't remember that. Anyway, the girls understand me how they can compete with only drawings. Naoto explains to them that the president's art has millions of ways to be interpreted. Then he looks for one of the works she presented last year. One of her hours is the president herself but naked. The girls see that and understand why the club was full last year. Hayes doesn't find it funny and asks Naoto what his interpretation of the artwork is. He blushes. He tries to explain that the president uses oil paints very well, contrasts, shadows, and everything else. Hayes tells him that she will be his model, and if he insists a lot she can use less clothes, but he tells her that she lacks voluptuousness. Although she is fine comparing it with the painting, it is noticeable that there is a lot of difference. Anyway, Naoto does not believe that he is able to make a magnificent painting, and he also defends Hayes. The next day the girls arrive with several costumes. Hayes tries them on and shows them to Naoto, but he is stressed by competing. He yells at Hayes unintentionally, and she ends up leaving the room angry. In the afternoon Naoto enters the room and it is divided in half. The president has done so that both cannot see the work. She goes to Naoto's space and sees him finish his painting, but something is missing. She asks him what is the most important thing needed to make a painting. He tells her that a theme. She tells him that the painting she has finished was only made to be perfect, but it does not reflect any feeling for others to try to interpret. Hayes enters the room, but when he sees the pressure in her robe he thinks that she will be his model and leaves. Naoto tries to explain himself, but she has already left, and the president encourages him to go after her. He chases after her and manages to catch up with her, but 2 more classmates arrive and greet Hayes. She tells the girls that he is a stalker and takes the opportunity to leave again. Naoto runs after her again. He catches up with her in the pool. She is on top of the heels. He yells at her, asking her to be his model. She responds by telling him to ask the president, but he denies. He wants her to be his model. When she is about to respond, she slips, and before falling into the water Naoto saves her. He ends up telling her that he wants to draw only her, that since he met her his days have become more fun, and that he thinks she is charming. And the day after day she, on hearing that confession, blushes like a tomato just like him. I release her unintentionally and both fall in the pool. She ends up going back to be his model. The boys are in the art room. The girls observe the works that Naoto made. All of them are Hayes. The girls are a little scared, but they are excellent. They feel warmth in each one. Goma asks me what is the title of the exhibition. Naoto answers Hayes' life. The girls make fun because they look like boyfriends, but both are nervous. Goma tells him to go to spy on the other side to see what the president is doing. Naoto decides not to go to not get discouraged. The girls instead find the painting and Hayes faints. When they are on the other side, the girls inform the senpai that if last year's work was majestic, this year's would be an erotic devil for the voluptuousness that is presented. Yoshi tells them that they have to compete with the same tactics that she is using. The 3 girls begin to plan, and Naoto tells them that they do not have to look for something very crazy. Besides, the contest is between Hayes, the president, and him. The art club finishes making the stand where they will place the exhibition. The president addresses the boy in questions and goes well with the work that responds that it will have an excellent exhibition. Then she tells him that she will not have to expose and expects to see his works with passion, love, and feeling. It is the day of the festival, and the president is being interviewed by the school newspaper club. In that, Hayes appears with her kitten costume along with 2 giant cat dolls by her side. Apparently the Nagato is being popular these last weeks in the festival. Gina shouts at them to dance, and they do it, although Hayes has a face of not doing it. They pass to phase 2. Hayes takes 2 boys and takes them to the exhibition of Naoto. They themselves tell him that they like the exhibition and that they would go out even with the model. Both exhibitions have enough public. Of the president is a work of erotic art well captured. Exhibition of Naoto. Several girls approach him to congratulate him. Day remains also liked his works. Hayes of Kitten continues insulting the boys, but they take it of mockery, and he likes that. Rubber tells Hayes to go to eat with senpai. They will be in charge of the publicity of the exhibition. Both boys go to eat, and Naoto thanks Hayes for being the main model in his works. Without her he could not have gotten through. She, on hearing the praise, blushes, but not to show her nervousness. She teases teases him and tells him that the outcast cockroach is spreading her wings. They finish eating and have a little fun observing the other exhibitions and games. When they get to theirs, the president's exhibition is being confiscated by the boys of order and discipline and takes her to the student council. They reprimand her for showing a very erotic work of art. Naoto enters to interrupt and tells the council that it is now art is worthy of admiration. He explains why, but they are still not convinced. Then Hayes also gives his point of view, but the disciplinarians say that they are encouraging lust and perversion in the students. She shows her camera and what she has filmed through the festival. Many of the kids see it in a perverted way, but still there are still various people who see it from afar and admire it and have another different point of view. They end up accepting the artwork as long as a survey is done to the students to see what their views are. The president thanks them. Hayes tells her that they have won because their artwork was not confiscated. The president destroys the expulsion and will talk to the student committee about it. The girls do not agree and ask the president to accept the punishment. She nods. The festival ends and the president meets Naoto. She is dressed as a bunny. The punishment was to dress up and sell all the tickets for the exhibition. She says although she feels humiliated, it gives her inspiration to create another work. Naoto, blushing, asks her to change before she gets in trouble with the discipline and order committee again. The president congratulates him for his work and for showing his feelings in the play. Hayes enters and invites him to the concert that will end the festival. Second season. In the art room, Naoto is reading a shoujo comic called Slave of Love. Is about where the protagonist is a sadist and likes to handle the president of the institute. Hayes discovers it and tells him that she feels identified with the protagonist. Naoto tells her that she makes the mockery stronger than the protagonist and she is taking it as a challenge that can be much worse. School ends and both head home. On the way, Naoto thinks about how to greet Hayes when he meets her on the street. She turns around and thinks he is looking at her legs and calls him a pervert, but when he explains the situation, he gives her 3 simple greetings. The first one hits him on the head, the second one bends his legs placing himself behind, and the third one hugs him from behind. He tells her he can't do the third one because that one feels more intimate. She makes fun because she thinks her little friend stood up to him, but he stops her. They continue walking and he stumbles, hugging her from behind, but with a small accident she touches him a breast. She instantly pushes him and appear more behind the 2 friends, Goma and Sakura. This last one pushes again another one and Hayes takes him before he falls. The girls speak and they remain to celebrate the triumph of the festival, and they invite him. He ends up going to a sushi restaurant. He does not feel part of the group but neither isolated, but he only proposes to eat. The girls finish eating more than 20 plates and he has not begun. Hayes tells the girls that that day he will be the protagonist. They all except Rubber prepares him a salmon sushi with salmon roe together and tells him to try it. When he does it, he likes it very much. Yoshi and Sakura prepare him a dish too and he also likes what he has tasted. Hayes, not to stay behind, also wants to prepare him something, but the combination that she makes is not the right one and the girls tell him that it is a waste of sushi. But Naoto still tries it and likes the dish. They all end up having fun until it is time to go back to their homes. In the art room is Naoto drawing while Hayes is taking a nap, but she is awakened by her phone. Sakura is calling her, warning her that the class is already going to begin. She gets up like a spring and goes running. Naoto realizes that she has left the phone. She thinks that she will return it to him in the afternoon, but she prefers to give it to him, so she goes to the classrooms of the first year. He realizes he doesn't know his homeroom and how he can tell he's lost. A girl asks him who he's looking for. He tells her his last name, Nagatoro, but he doesn't recognize her until he tells her his name, Hayes. The girl tells him he's in homeroom 1 degrees Celsius. The bell rings and he does not give her a chance to give it to him and he hides in a cleaning locker. The students enter him and the class begins, and after a while the lunch hour returns and the girls are talking. At that moment Hayes realizes that he does not have his telephone. She asks the favor to Sakura that she calls her. It turns out that her telephone is closer than you think. When she follows the sound and opens the locker, she finds Naoto hidden there. She ends up taking her out secretly and thanks him for the telephone. After that uncomfortable silence, she asks him if you have listened to the conversation that they have had previously on the boys. He makes crazy that I have not heard anything and he leaves running. In the evening, Naoto is practicing to run a little because the next day they have a marathon and wants to do his best. The next day in the morning, the teacher is organizing a marathon with the first year. Hayes appears and scares him and proposes to make a race, and that the other girls arrive and tells him that it will be fun, will be like the hare and the tortoise. If they are careless they can beat him, but he compares them even more cat. Naoto tells the girls that they should be lucky because the president is very good at sports. They are not going to let themselves be beaten, and then they start to think about it. They are not going to let themselves be defeated, and so they create a strategy of a propeller. One of them gets behind the other and starts to push each other to advance faster. They also put Naoto first when they go down the street, They manage to separate because they can't cross all together. So Naoto and Hayes stay together on the other side of the street. The other girls tell him that they follow and that now he will reach them while they run to Senpai, and he bends his foot and he cannot follow the rhythm that he had there. I know helps him a little and lifts him. Now he is carrying him on horseback. When they are already a little far from the president, they prefer to go to a slow rhythm, but in that tranquility the other girls arrive and he creates another strategy. They lift Naoto and Sakura is in front, creating like a whirlwind that helps them. It gives more impulse to the others. They are near the president and she runs stronger. They manage to overtake her, but when they arrive at the end of the goal they disqualify them, leaving the winner to the president. Several days later they pass of the race. Hayes has not gone to the classroom of art. Then in car he goes to the classrooms of first and he meets Rubber and Sakura. He asks him what has happened with her and she tells him that she has had a cold, for that reason that she has not gone to class. They give him the notes so that he takes them to his house and he accepts. He knocks on the door but nobody answers. Then he decides to turn around to see if he gets someone. It turns out that a girl takes a photo of him thinking that he is a stalker or pervert, maybe a thief. It turns out that the girl is the older sister of Nagatoro, and she has the same personality of mockery that she has. At Hayes' house, the older sister informs him that she is still asleep but he can wait for her for a while they have tea. She already warns him that she has heard many things about him and he asks her what things. She answers him perverted and out of place things he to hear that tries to deny, but she laughs saying that she is just teasing him. Apparently both sisters have the same teasing spark. She asks him if he is interested in her little sister. He blushes and denies, but she uses the tactic that if it were the case he would tell you too many things about her, too many things. When she is about to answer, Hayes gets up and asks her sister if she bought her Flan yet. She hasn't noticed that Naoto is in the living room. When the sister is about to answer, Hayes looks up and sees another one. She gets nervous because of how she is dressed and disheveled and runs to her room yelling at him about why she didn't warn him. He replies that he did by sending her messages, but they were never answered. She tells him because she was sleeping and he said he must have guessed it, but he still wanted to bring her copies of her homework and a gift to get her better. After all that fuss, she shows up in a different outfit and all dressed up. The older sister shows her that she has bought the simple Flan from the supermarket, but that Naoto has brought the fluffier premium plan. She tells her to thank her friend, but she for shame does not want to do it. Then her sister manages her by telling her that if you add fruit a little side and a little cream to the Flan, it will be a richer one and the perfect Flan for the cold. Hayes, gawking at the sister's creation, thanks the senpai. This one realizes that Nagatoro is well manipulated by her older sister. Hayes takes the accent and takes it to the room because he knows that his older sister may say something that will embarrass him, so he prefers to avoid that situation. Both in the room are eating the plan prepared earlier. He apologizes for having come without warning, but she tells him that it is not his fault, rather thanks him for going to see her. After that quiet moment, Hayes tells him to open his mouth to give her some Flan. He tries to refuse, but knowing her he ends up obeying. And when they are in the action, the older sister interrupts them, taking them by surprise. Both are red as a tomato, and the sister tells him that they should be a little thirsty being alone. Nagatoro gets upset and pulls her out, but before leaving completely she tells senpai that she is very interested in her younger sister. Looking at him with mockery, she leaves and he is left nervous. Nagatoro turns like the exorcist and asks senpai for an explanation. They finish eating and he decides to leave, but before Hayes takes him by the hand and tells him that he will not leave until they finish playing. The other time he accepts and says that he will not be so quiet and he will give it all. In the middle of the games he cheats, but Naoto doesn't get upset because he already expected it from her. After a while he says to make a bet, and she goes ahead telling him that he surely wants to know the size of her breast, but he gets embarrassed and denies completely. What he wants to know is her name so he can refer to her and not call her by her surname. She accepts. He ends up winning, but then ends up denying that through a video game setting it is not possible to know a person's name, so he tells her to tell him some other time. When they bring up the conversation they blush as they are seeing each other. They are interrupted by the older sister with a photo album to show senpai from when her younger sister was in elementary school. It's getting late and senpai decides to go home. Hayes accompanies him to the door, says goodbye and thanks him again for coming to visit her. A new day and senpai doesn't show up at the art club. She gets several messages on the phone. It turns out that she has a cold and has not been able to go. Hayes writes to him asking him what happened and he informs her of the situation. She calls him immediately asking him how he feels and apologizing because she may be the cause of his cold. He tells her that it is nothing and that she should not worry. She sends him to bed because his parents may scold them if he is standing up. He tells her that it is not possible because they are both on a business trip. She is worried because he is alone at home. Naoto falls asleep. After a while you are awake because they are ringing the doorbell of his house. He decides to play crazy, but they do not let. When he gets up it turns out that Hayes has gone to visit him because she was worried that he fainted. Is he hurt or worsened by his cold? He makes her come in and she sends him to bed because she notices that he is very weak on the second floor in Senpai's room. She observes her carefully and admits that she finds it very clean but that somewhere very dark must be his erotic magazines. He only observes her that not even his cold day can be calm. He lies down and takes his temperature is boiling, then she decides to look for a little pot, fill it with water with a towel, and put it on him so he can be a little cooler and bring down his fever. She lets him rest and decides to go to the kitchen to prepare something to eat. Then she gets a call from her older sister asking her what time she will be back. She informs him of the situation and that his parents will be a little late. Her sister makes fun of him because they seem to be in love and she denies the whole situation. He is delirious because of the fever but ends up thanking Nagatoro for his name. Hearing it takes him by surprise and wants to make fun of him but Naoto falls asleep. She takes advantage of that situation and confesses, telling him that if he keeps ignoring her she should give him a kiss so he realizes how she feels. When you are close to give it to him, the main door opens. Naoto's mother has arrived and nervously she gets ready to go downstairs and leave. The next morning Naoto wakes up better. The mother asks him who was the girl who was in the house yesterday. He asks her which one and she answers that when he arrived he found some shoes in the entrance and when he was in the hallway he found a girl coming down the stairs at that moment. Hayes introduced herself and said she was coming to visit him since she had heard he was sick. The mother offered to take her home, but she denied since she lived nearby. She asks him if they are boyfriend and girlfriend, but he denies that she is just a friend he made in high school. Moments later he gets ready to go to school and remembers a very vague moment of when he thanked her and calling her by her name. At that he blushes, and as he continues on his way he bumps into Hayes. They both look at each other and blush. She asks him if he is feeling better and he nods. They both head to school. Winter is near Christmas and Hayes asks her sister which would be the best gift to give to someone there. Her older sister catches and asks her if it is to deliver it to Naoto, but she denies for nervousness. In the institute, Naoto and Hayes, she is laughing because she tells him accent of that she will spend Christmas alone and also it is the last day of class for what she is excited for that. In her thoughts trying to decide if to deliver him the gift that she prepared for her. Sakura, Rubber and Yoshi appear intercepting them, but it is that they help them in a situation. All are in the library and Rubber speaks, warning her that in the night of Christmas is divided in two groups, those that have couple and those that are single. Yoshi has couple together with another friend for what they will have plans together. Then Sakura and Rubber plan to go to the karaoke to sing all the songs, and that Naoto realizes that in the backpack of Hayes there is a gift. He feels a little nervous. Hayes in the same way feels nervous because she also discovered that there is a gift in the backpack of Naoto. Hayes gets up and takes Naoto, telling the others that he has forgotten some things in the art room. The boys watch them, but the two of them run away. Both boys are nervous about giving the gift, but we take the courage to give it to him, and when he turns around the closet door opens and the president appears naked. Nagoto turns around and yells at her, asking her why she is doing that. The president tells him that it is her last year and soon she will be leaving. She wanted to feel the atmosphere all over her skin. They both decide to leave, but in that moment they find a teacher watching in the hallways. He is very strict with the rules, and if they discover him he will send them out. So they enter the first room they find, but it turns out that it was also occupied by other people or a couple, and they are in their romantic moment. And they run away when they hear strange things. We end up going to the roof, but they are not the only ones there. There are several couples there. They decide to go home, but now takes the courage to give him the gift. She opens it and it is a scarf because that season they say it will be very cold. She tries it on and he is always fascinated when he sees it. She gives him his gift and it turns out that it is also a scarf. He is surprised that both have coincided. It is already late at night and they decide to walk home. So the guys spend an excellent Christmas. New Year, very little for the end of the year. Naoto receives a call from Hayes. She asks him if in New Year he goes to the temple. He tells her that since he was little he does not go to the temple. Then she invites him to go together before the end of the year. At the meeting point Naoto waits for Hayes. She has a kimono. It turns out that she is working in the temple just to use it. Both go to ask the blessing, know your luck, and try the hot drink. When they are talking and spending a good time has come enough people, then Naoto decides to leave to not bother her in her work. He decides to go back to the temple to ask for an amulet for good luck. Hayes takes him by surprise, but then he sends him a message telling him that he will be out in a while waiting, and they both go to a place where there are many people gathered to hang their amulets. They spend a nice afternoon and end of the year.